procedures, check out the vehicle, and start a descent, abort the descent, come back up, rendezvous, and make sure the lunar module performed as it was planned and designed. It was a successful mission. During that time, I was in mission control as a Capcom, that's a capsule communicator. And during that phase of the mission, where we actually powered up the lunar module, started this descent, back up the rendezvous, and then rejoin. As a result of developing those procedures and of the activation and checkout, we called it, of the lunar module, Neil Armstrong said, well, hey, why don't you do that for us on Apollo 11, since we're actually going to land, and you've got the experience in mission control, so why don't you do that? So I was privileged to go on that crew as a support and in mission control for Capcom, little logistics instructions here. We had a successful landing with Apollo 11 in spite of all the problems that we experienced on Apollo 11. As we started descent, we started having a communication problem, then we had computer problems, and the computer problems continued all the way down to touchdown. It was computer overload problem. The Apollo computer was the state of the art, but the state of the art back then was 80K memory. That was it. My cell phone has 200,000 times the memory of our Apollo computer. So you can see where technology's taken us in the last 45 years. So the computer kept overloading, but it was still performing. It was just not doing some of the minor activities that we had planned for it, but it was guiding the machine down to the correct touchdown. Then we had a problem with a trajectory. It didn't. We were just had them targeted into an area of the moon that was impossible to land on. Big rocks everywhere. So Neil had to level off, fly over this boulders, large rocks, slow down, and then descend. Well, that's not budgeted for in your fuel budget, and so we were running out of gas. And I called Eagle 60 seconds. He had 60 seconds to land. We called Eagle 30 seconds. He's still airborne, but 13 seconds later we heard contact, engine stop, boom, the Eagle was on the moon. And it was dead silence in mission control. You can't imagine the tension that we experienced in mission control when we called 30 seconds to abort and they still weren't on the ground. Well, they landed, and there was an eruption, and Neil, it was a pause, and Armstrong came back, Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. And I was so excited I could not pronounce tranquility. It came out twanquility, and I corrected myself, and Roger, tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. And literally, we were holding our breath because of, so close. Well, by the time we landed, 4 flights later, we landed with about 3 minutes fuel remaining. So we got a lot better with it as we got experienced, and a lot better with trajectory. We knew where we were going on the moon. And so then I was back up for Apollo 13, which was the mission that exploded on the way out. Fortunately, we did recover them safely. And if you haven't seen Tom Hanks in that movie, Apollo 13, I recommend you go see it. Or of course, you can't go see it, but you can rent it, I guess, through a DVD or buy it. And they captured the drama and the chronology of that mission very, very accurately. The only thing that wasn't real was every time in the movie they showed you mission control, it was the same people. Well, mission control shift work, so every 8 hours you change shift. Well, to keep some continuity in the movie, they always showed the same guys, but it was 99 hours from the time of the explosion to the time of recovery, so nobody worked 99 hours straight, except that's what they showed in the movie. Well, in April 1972, we launched on Apollo. We were scheduled to go to an area of the moon called the Descartes region of the moon. It was the mountains of the moon, and it was actually the highest elevation of any Apollo landing. If you assume that Neil Armstrong, where they landed, was sea level, like your country, then we landed about 3,000, not 3,000 meters, 7,200 feet, so it was about 2,000 meters, 2,500 meters higher than they were. The rocks were different, and so it was unique geology, and everybody was really excited about the rocks that we collected on this mountainous area of the moon. And I'll have a DVD in a moment, and I'll show you this valley. We landed in this big valley, almost in the center of the moon. As you view the moon from the Earth, we were almost in the center. It was a beautiful spot. It was an exciting adventure. We were scheduled to be on the moon for 72 hours, and the objective was to go out and explore this valley during our 72-hour stay. So on the moon, we took the 72 hours and divided them up into 3 24-hour periods. So during each 24-hour period, we had a rest period. We ate a meal when we woke up. It took a couple up to 3 hours to suit up, to put your suit on, get your backpack ready, check it all out, then depressurize the spacecraft and exit the spacecraft to go start to explore the moon. Then we were outside for 7 to 7.5 hours. We came back inside, we took off our backpack, we took off our suits, we debriefed with mission control, we ate a meal, put up our hammocks, and went to sleep. So that was the routine every 24 hours. The first rest period was originally scheduled on our flight plan to be after the first moonwalk. But we had a problem in the spacecraft, the command module, which orbits the moon, and we had a problem with that spacecraft 1 hour before we were to land on the moon. We were on the far side of the moon, and Mattingly had to ignite the engine to change his orbit. Well, he had a problem with the secondary control system of the engine. It was vibrating and moving, and it wouldn't center up. And so we aborted that mission. The landing, that meant we weren't going to get to land. If he didn't make his orbit change, we couldn't land. And so we thought we were coming home. It was very frustrating time, if you will. We trained 2 years. We'd come 250,000 miles, and my landing spot was 5 kilometers beneath us, and they were telling me to get ready to come home. So you can imagine how disappointed we were at that point. But the teamwork of NASA with mission control and all of the preparation, all of the planning, all the pre-tests paid off. Because an engineer, a mission control in one of the back rooms, saw the data that we sent to Houston through this test that didn't work. And he said, that looks familiar. And he went and resurrected a test of the engine that was done at Tullahoma, Tennessee, 5 years before, where the same graph was showing. And when they lit the engine in this test, the engine just centered up. Because it's a circular nozzle, and the pressure equalizes, so the engine centers, and now you can use the reaction control system to steer the spacecraft. So now we've got a secondary system. So now we're go for landing, but it's 6 hours late. So we land on the moon, and so instead of preparing to get outside, NASA, the mission control, decides, well, you're gonna, by the time you get back inside and finish your moonwalk, you're going to be up 40 hours with no sleep. And that's too much. We don't want you to make a mistake. So what we want you to do is go to sleep. Now, can you imagine 2 hours after you land on the moon, you're supposed to go to sleep? Well, my eyes are like this. I was so excited, like a little boy on holiday. You know, I was bouncing up and down, looking out the window, describing every rock that you could see. And this moon was so beautiful to me, and it was so desolate. Buzz Aldrin's called it magnificent desolation. I call it awesomely beautiful. It's desolate, of course, because there's no life up there. It's a big vacuum, and so there's no atmosphere. But you look out across this very rough terrain. It's very rolling and shades of gray. And the horizon of the moon is that a broken gray mountainous area. And then you look up into the blackness of space. And it was just, if space from the moon it looked like you could reach out and touch it. It was so velvety looking. And so as we looked across, I felt right at home on the moon. There was no sense of aliens, you know, Star Wars creatures or anything like that. You just felt like you belonged. And you could see left and you could see right, and the major landmarks that we had studied from photographs. Oh, there's Stone Mountain, there's Smoky Mountain. We could see Noordwijk crater, which was our objective on the last day. You could see another major crater out to the northwest of us. And so all of these major features we recognized, so we felt like, well, we're at home. And we had a set of maps to get us from point A to point B. So John and I, once we did get outside, we felt just like we belonged on the moon. It's a very hostile environment, so you got to depend, of course, on your spacesuit and your backpack, your life support system to stay alive. But you don't worry about wring your hands, what if this breaks or what if that breaks. You're just prepared to handle those things up to a certain point. And if your glove blew off, you were dead. But there was no reason to worry about it. If that happened, why worry about it? There's nothing you can do about it anyway. So that was the attitude we had, was let's just go enjoy this 3 days we had on the moon. And if something did happen, that was just what your day. So fortunately, nothing happened while we were on the moon, and all of us made it back safely. 12 of us that walked on the moon. Since that time, 4 have died, natural causes, except for Pete Conrad. He died of motorcycle complications from a motorcycle accident. But everybody else, you know, so 8 of us still alive. I'm the youngest, and I'll be 78 in October. The rest of them are in either late 70s or early 80s. So we're not going to be around much longer. So maybe some of you young boys and girls in here get a chance to go back to the moon, I hope. I think it will be a great adventure for you. The moon was